My name is Lorraine May Whitmore. I'm 78 years old, a retired school teacher from a small town just outside Des Moines, Iowa. I have one daughter. Her name is Candace. And this morning, I sat alone in my worn kitchen chair with a half-packed suitcase by the door, staring at a message that shattered my heart. You won't be joining us. My husband prefers to keep it only her family. Her family, not our family. I blinked, trying to make sense of it. I read it again. My hands shook. The words didn't change. Candace and I had planned the vacation for over 6 months. She picked the destination, a beautiful all-inclusive resort in California. Her husband, Trevor, wanted the kids to experience real sunshine, and I agreed. I used my pension and a large chunk of the savings Robert left me, my late husband, to pay for everything.
Flights, rooms,
Excursions, even the fancy dining package. And now, 2 hours before the flight, I had been uninvited. I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted back. No response. I looked at the printed flight confirmation on the counter with my name, her husband's, and their 2 daughters. My name was right there. Seat 21C. I had even upgraded them to Economy Plus. And now, I was not welcome? My mouth felt dry. I stood slowly, grabbed the cane I only used for travel, and walked out to my porch to sit in the morning sun. My neighbor, Edna, waved across the street. All packed for paradise, Lorraine? I opened my mouth. No words came out. I smiled weakly and nodded. But inside, something broke. And then something else snapped into place. I pulled out my phone, logged into the bank app. I had created a special travel fund account just for this trip, a separate debit card for ease, tied to their reservations. It took 2 taps. Freeze card. I watched the screen confirm the action. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat there quietly, watching the sun warm my hands. And somewhere, Candace and her perfect little family were boarding the plane. What they didn't know yet was that the moment they tried to check in at the resort, order lunch by the beach, or take their rented Jeep to Disneyland, the card wouldn't work. And neither would their plan to erase me. But how did it come to this? What could make a daughter cut out her own mother after everything we've shared? To understand, you have to go back, years back, to the beginning of a quiet unraveling. The moment I let silence fill the space where truth should have lived. And the first time I realized my daughter loved appearances more than she loved the woman who raised her. Before Candace married Trevor, she used to call me every single night, even if it was just to say, "Hi, Mom, I'm eating leftover spaghetti," or, "You'll never guess what happened at work." She never went to bed without checking in. That was our rhythm, her voice at 9 p.m., my comfort before sleep. But after the wedding, the calls stopped being nightly, then weekly, then only when she needed something. Trevor didn't like me from the start. He was charming, I'll give him that. A finance manager with a pulley smile, khaki slacks, and a firm handshake. The kind of man who looked people in the eye, but never saw them. At their wedding, when I gave my toast, I remember looking at Candace and seeing something strange behind her eyes. A tension, a smile that was too practiced. Later that night, she whispered, "He's just tired from all the planning, Mom. Don't take it personal." But I did. Because that night, he told me not to hover. Candace had always been sensitive. I raised her on my own after Robert passed. She was only 12 when the cancer took him. I worked 2 jobs. One at the elementary school during the day, another cleaning offices at night. Every dream she reached was because I refused to let go. And yet, somehow, I became too much for her. After they had their daughters, things changed even more. Trevor made all the plans, the holidays, the budgets, the decisions. Candace just smiled, nodded, and repeated whatever he said. Still, I stayed quiet. I didn't want to lose her. I offered to babysit. I cooked. I helped with school pickups when their sitter bailed. I even gave them money when Trevor's business investments fell flat. When Candace told me about the vacation, I lit up. "I'll pay for it," I said. "A gift for the girls. For you. For everything we missed during the pandemic." She was hesitant. You don't have to. I want to, I said. I didn't want her to feel like I was forcing my way in. I just wanted 1 week with my grandkids, to see them in the ocean, to laugh at dinner, to be a part of their memories. She sent over all the travel details. I created a special debit card tied to my account and booked it all. The flights, the resort, the rides. Even a little surprise for the girls, dolphin swimming lessons at a marine park. I told Edna across the street. I told the church ladies. I even bought a sun hat. And then, this morning, the text came. You won't be joining us. My husband prefers to keep it only her family. She called herself her. Not our. Not me and the kids. Just her. Trevor made it clear. I wasn't family in his eyes. And Candace, she chose silence. But what they don't know is that I chose something too. I froze the card. And I started writing everything down. Every withdrawal, every detail, every receipt. Because I wasn't going to stay silent anymore. Not after sacrificing everything to be left behind like a used suitcase. Not when I'd been the one holding up their world from behind the scenes. But I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to teach them a lesson, the kind of lesson that sticks. And the first part of that lesson would begin the moment they landed and tried to check in. If you think Lorraine was right to freeze that card, drop a comment below. What would you have done? Tap that like button if you're rooting for Lorraine, and hit subscribe so you don't miss next chapter. When her daughter realizes what happens when you bite the hand that fed you. At 3:11 p.m., my phone rang. It was Candace. I stared at the screen, letting it ring twice. 3 times. Part of me wanted to ignore it, let her feel the same silence she handed me that morning. But I answered. Mom, her voice was tight, embarrassed, a little breathless. We're at the hotel, and the card isn't working. I didn't respond right away. We're standing at the check-in desk, she rushed on. The front desk manager said the card was declined. Still, I stayed quiet. I thought maybe there was a glitch. Or maybe the bank blocked it for fraud. Could you call them? I cleared my throat. No, honey, I said. There's no glitch. Silence. You froze it, she whispered, stunned. I did. A long pause. In the background, I heard Trevor's voice snap. What do you mean it's frozen? She paid for this trip. That was the moment I had waited for, when the truth finally scratched its way through their shiny, selfish world. I paid for this trip, I said slowly. But apparently, I wasn't invited on it. She was quiet. You texted me this morning like I was an afterthought. Like I was a wallet, not your mother. I was going to explain, she began. No, Candace, I said gently. You made it clear. Your husband prefers to keep it her family. So I respected that. But the kids are disappointed, she whispered. I'm sure they are, I said. But I imagine they'd be more disappointed if they knew Grandma wasn't on the trip because their parents decided she wasn't welcome. I could hear her breathing, shallow, angry, maybe ashamed. Then Trevor grabbed the phone. What kind of stunt is this, Lorraine? You're embarrassing everyone. That was the first time he'd spoken to me in 2 years. I'm not playing a game, I said calmly. I'm setting a boundary. You paid for the trip, he said. You can't just take it back. I didn't take anything back. I simply stopped financing my own exclusion.
Click.
He hung up. I set the phone down and let out a long breath. That evening, Edna came over with a casserole. She sat with me on the porch, sipping iced tea. They get back next week? She asked. I nodded. If they find a way to pay for the hotel, think she'll call you again? I shrugged. If she does, I'll be here. But I won't be in the shadows anymore. Edna smiled and gave my hand a gentle squeeze. The next morning, I got a message from my bank's fraud alert team. Someone had tried to use my card for a luxury SUV rental and a fine dining charge. Both declined. They didn't just want the vacation. They wanted the fantasy. And they wanted me to fund it while they erased me. But those days were over. I'd always believed kindness meant keeping the peace. Bending. Smiling through disrespect. But now, I was learning something new. Kindness without boundaries isn't love. It's self-erasure. And I still had more to reclaim. Because what Candace and Trevor didn't know was that I had started documenting everything, not just the vacation charges, but the loans I had given them over the years. The babysitting, the down payment on their house, I co-signed without telling anyone. All of it. And soon, I was going to tell the full story. Not for revenge. For healing. What would you do if your own daughter excluded you like this after everything? Should Lorraine confront her face-to-face or keep her distance? Drop your thoughts below. Hit like if you're proud of Lorraine for standing up for herself. And subscribe so you don't miss what happened next, the moment Candace returns home and faces the truth she can't ignore. Candace didn't call me again for 3 days. I didn't reach out either. I spent those days in silence, except for the hum of the ceiling fan, the occasional knock from Edna bringing by muffins, and the quiet prayers I said each morning at sunrise. I wasn't angry anymore. I was grieving. Not grieving the trip. Grieving the daughter I thought I had. On the 5th morning, I heard the screen door creak. Then a knock. I opened the door, and there she was, Candace. No makeup. Hair in a loose ponytail. Eyes red-rimmed. She was alone. She didn't say a word at first. Just stood there, clutching her purse like a child holding a broken toy. "Mom," she whispered. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She walked slowly into the living room and sat on the edge of the couch. The same couch where she had once curled up in footy pajamas and watched Little House on the Prairie with me. Now she looked like a stranger trying to remember her way back home.
"I'm sorry," she said.
I waited. I didn't know Trevor sent that message. Not until we were already in the airport. I looked at her carefully. "And when you saw it, you stayed silent?" She looked down. I froze. "He said it would be awkward with you there. That the girls needed just us time." "But I'm the one who paid for the time," I said. She nodded, tears forming. "I let him control too much," she said. "And I let it go too far." "You didn't just let it go," I said gently. "You pushed me out."
She sobbed then.
Shoulders trembling. Hands clenched. I brought her a tissue. She looked up at me. "I want to fix this, but I don't know how." I sat beside her. "You can start by telling the truth," I said. "To your daughters, to yourself, and maybe to a lawyer." She blinked. "A lawyer?" "I've spoken to one," I said quietly, "about the money I gave you, the financial agreements, the co-signing. It's all been documented." Candace looked stunned. "You're suing me?" "No," I said. "Not yet. But I am protecting myself now. And if Trevor tries to touch a single dime more of what I've earned, he'll learn what a retired schoolteacher with a paper trail can do." Candace sat in silence. Then she whispered, "We're not okay, are we?" I shook my head slowly. "Not yet. But this is a start." She stood to leave. At the door, she paused. The girls asked why Grandma wasn't there. I told them we had a misunderstanding. I looked her in the eyes. "Next time, tell them the truth. Tell them Grandma paid for everything and wasn't invited." She nodded, her shoulders heavy. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The next morning, I logged into my email. There it was, a message from Candace. Subject line, "I found the receipts. I had no idea how much you did for us." Attached was a scanned list of every deposit I'd made into their accounts over the past 10 years. Babysitting money I never took, utility bills I paid without them asking, repairs I covered quietly. She ended the email with just one line.
"I want to repay what I can."
"I want the girls to know who you really are." It wasn't a complete healing, but it was a crack in the wall. Still, I wasn't naive. Trevor wasn't going to let this go. And I knew he'd come knocking next. To be continued. Should Lorraine accept her daughter's apology, or should she set firmer boundaries this time? What would you do in her shoes? Tell us in the comments. Like this video if you're proud of Lorraine's quiet strength, and subscribe so you don't miss next chapter. When Trevor returns with one final move that changes everything. He showed up on a Wednesday. The sun was high and hot, and I was trimming the rose bushes in my front yard. I saw his car before I saw him. Trevor always drove too fast, even in quiet neighborhoods like mine. Dust kicked up behind his silver SUV as he parked crooked in front of my house. I wiped my hands on my gardening apron and stood tall. He didn't wait for an invitation. He slammed the car door, strode across the lawn in his expensive loafers, and marched up my path like he owned it. "Lorraine," he said coldly. "Trevor," I replied, just as still. He looked around, pretending to admire the flower beds. "Beautiful place. Must be worth something, huh?" I didn't respond. He stepped closer, his smile tight. "Listen, I know you're upset. You've made your point. You froze the card, embarrassed Candace, humiliated me, fine. But don't punish the girls for adult decisions." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean don't hold you accountable for what you did?" He shrugged. "You're not going to win this. Candace is still my wife. The girls are still my daughters. You're making things awkward." I stepped forward slowly. "Trevor, I gave you 10 years of quiet loyalty. I watched you manipulate my daughter, keep me at arm's length, and treat me like a checkbook in a rocking chair." His smile faded. "But here's what you didn't see. I'm not just a grandma. I'm not just a tired old lady in a floral blouse. I'm a woman who kept receipts. Literal and emotional." I pulled a folder from the patio table and held it out. He didn't take it. "In that folder," I continued, "are bank statements, co-signed agreements, even text messages where you promised to pay me back for the down payment. It's all dated, all legal, and all going to my attorney tomorrow." He scoffed. "You'd really do that?" "I already did," I said. He was silent. "And if you ever threaten my daughter into silence again or try to isolate my grandkids from me, I will file a lawsuit so fast your bank will think it's fraud." Trevor's jaw flexed. He turned to leave, then paused. "She's weak, you know. Candace. Always was. You protected her too much." I stepped forward. "And you preyed on that. But she's not weak anymore." He climbed into his SUV and slammed the door. Tires squealed as he sped off down the road. I stood there, roses behind me, wind brushing my face. I wasn't scared. Not anymore. That evening, Candace called. "He came home furious," she said. "Said you threatened him." "I didn't threaten," I replied. "I warned." Silence. Then, "Thank you." "For what?" "For doing what I should have done years ago." We didn't speak long, but something was shifting. The fear that had gripped her voice before was cracking. She was waking up, slowly, painfully, but clearly. The next Sunday, she and the girls came by, unannounced. I was in the kitchen when I heard the knock. I opened the door, and there they were, Lily and Harper, in matching dresses, holding a pie. "Grandma," they yelled in unison. Candace stood behind them, holding her car keys. "No, Trevor." "I told him we're staying with you for a few days," she said. I opened the door wide. The girls ran inside. Candace followed, shoulders relaxed for the first time in years. That night, she cooked. I sat back and watched her move around my kitchen like she used to in high school, flour on her cheek, humming quietly. Later, when the girls were asleep, she sat beside me. "I filed for separation," she said. I turned to her, stunned.
He begged.
Then he blamed me. Then he threatened me. And that's when I knew. He's not going to change. But I can. I took her hand. And for the first time since that terrible morning with the text, I felt hope. Not the fragile kind. The real kind. But just as we sat in silence, a car crept down the street. A black sedan. No plates. It parked across the road and didn't move. Candace looked up. That's not his car. I stood slowly, heart pounding, because I knew Trevor was capable of many things. But I never expected what he did next. To be continued. Do you think Candace will stay strong this time? Or will Trevor find a way to pull her back in? Comment your thoughts. What would you do if you were Lorraine? Tap the like button if you believe in second chances, and hit subscribe so you don't miss next chapter. When the past comes knocking in a way no one expected. The black sedan sat parked for 20 minutes. No one got out. No lights turned on. Just the slow hum of the engine, barely audible across the street. I stood behind the curtain, watching. Candace was beside me, arms wrapped around herself, like a frightened child. "It's not him," she said again, but I wasn't so sure. A few minutes later, the car eased away, slow, like it was watching. The brake lights blinked once at the stop sign. Then it was gone.
We didn't sleep well that night.
The girls stayed in the guest room. I left a light on in the hallway. Candace paced the living room for hours. I finally convinced her to lie down, but I knew she wouldn't rest. And neither would I. The next morning, I went to the sheriff's department. I filed a report, described the vehicle, gave them Trevor's details. They were polite, professional, but I could see it in their eyes. No plates, no incident, no action. Back home, Candace was on the phone with her lawyer. I overheard pieces. "Yes, he followed me once before. No, I don't have a recording. Yes, my mom witnessed it." She hung up and looked at me. "They want me to file for a restraining order." I nodded. "Do it." That afternoon, I went into my closet and pulled down an old shoebox, the one I hadn't touched in years. Inside were letters. Handwritten notes from Robert. One in particular, dated 20 years ago, read, "If anything ever happens to me, promise me you'll never let anyone treat you like you're less than the queen you are. You're stronger than you think." I placed that letter on my nightstand. That evening, as we prepared dinner, Candace said, "He's going to fight me. In court. For custody." "Let him," I said. "You've got truth on your side now." She nodded slowly. "I've started writing everything down. My own receipts." We were healing. Quietly, carefully, like sewing a torn quilt. But the past has sharp edges. The following day, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a copy of a check. A cashier's check. Made out in my name. For $75,000. There was no note. Just one sentence printed on the bottom corner. "For everything you think you're owed. Now disappear." Candace gasped when she saw it. "He's trying to buy you off," she whispered. "No," I said. "He's trying to erase me." I stared at that piece of paper for a long time. Trevor wanted me to walk away, to take the money and fade into the background, quietly like all the other times. But this time was different, because now I had witnesses. Now I had strength. Now I had nothing left to lose. That night, I mailed the check back. Uncashed, unendorsed, with my own note. "You can't buy silence anymore. You already spent that privilege." 3 days later, we received notice from Candace's lawyer. Trevor's legal team had officially filed for emergency custody. His reasoning? That Candace had moved the children into an unstable and emotionally manipulative environment. In other words, my house. The same house where they learned to ride bikes, built snowmen, and made pancakes in matching pajamas. Candace crumpled the paper in her hand. Her eyes were fierce this time. "He wants war," she said. "Then let's show him what a quiet woman and a mother pushed too far can really do." I smiled. It was the first time I'd seen the fire back in her. The custody hearing was set for the following week. Trevor didn't know what was coming, because this time we had every receipt and something more powerful than money. The truth. To be continued. What would you do if you received a payoff check like that? Would you cash it or stand your ground like Lorraine? Let us know in the comments. If you're rooting for Lorraine and Candace to win this fight, like this video and hit subscribe. Next chapter will reveal what happens when the courtroom doors open. And trust me, it's not what anyone expects. The courtroom smelled like pine-scented polish and tension. I sat in the second row, wearing my Sunday best, a navy blouse with pearl buttons, and the brooch Robert gave me for our 30th anniversary. Candace sat beside me in a tailored gray dress, hair pinned up. She looked calm, composed, but I could feel her pulse in the air. Trevor walked in flanked by 2 lawyers. He wore a deep blue suit and a smug grin that made my stomach twist. He didn't glance at Candace. Not once. He looked ahead like he was marching toward victory. But he didn't know what we had. He didn't know Candace had saved the messages, his texts threatening her, belittling her, gaslighting her about her own memory. He didn't know I had recorded our last conversation on the porch, where he tried to intimidate me into silence. He didn't know the girl's pediatrician had written a letter on Candace's behalf, affirming her as a present, responsible, and deeply loving mother. But he was about to find out. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with kind eyes, called the room to order. Trevor's lawyer launched first. He painted Candace as unstable, claimed she'd abandoned the family structure, was influenced by an aging parent with clear bias, and accused me of deliberate manipulation for personal gain. I sat there, stone still, but inside, a fire burned. Candace's lawyer rose next. She calmly presented documentation, the long history of financial support, evidence of coercion and control, Candace's mental health records showing strength and stability. Then came the phone records, the texts, the screenshots, and finally the recording. It played aloud in court. Trevor's voice, cold and clear. "You're just the old lady with a checkbook. You can either keep your mouth shut, or I'll make Candace regret ever knowing you." A gasp rippled through the room. Trevor froze. His lawyer tried to object, but the damage was done. When the judge recessed for lunch, Trevor finally looked at me. His face wasn't smug anymore. It was pale, tense,
Cracked.
"You think you've won?" he muttered, passing me in the hallway. "This isn't over." I looked him in the eye. "No," I said softly. "This is just the part where the truth catches up to the lies." Back in session, the judge didn't take long. She denied Trevor's custody request, called his behavior manipulative, retaliatory, and unsupported by credible evidence. Then she looked straight at Candace. "You have shown courage, clarity, and concern for your children's well-being," she said. "And your mother, she is not a liability. She's a lifeline." Candace sobbed into her hands. I reached over and squeezed her shoulder. After the hearing, as we walked out, a reporter approached. The story had caught wind in local media. "Ms. Whitmore," he said, "what do you say to other grandmothers who feel powerless?" I smiled. "Document everything," I said, "and never mistake quiet for weak." That night, we celebrated with hot cocoa and grilled cheese sandwiches. Nothing fancy, just warmth, laughter, and relief. The girls danced in the living room. Candace and I sat watching them, shoulder to shoulder on the couch. "He'll come after us again," she said quietly. I nodded. "He might, but I'm ready now." We sipped our cocoa in silence. Then the phone rang. Candace answered. Her smile faded. She handed it to me. "It's his mother." Trevor's mother had never liked me. We hadn't spoken in years. I put the phone to my ear. "Hello." Her voice was soft.
Shaky.
"Lorraine, I just want you to know."
"I'm sorry."
I warned him once not to push you. You're stronger than he'll ever be.
I didn't know what to say.
But I also need to tell you something. He's planning something else. I found papers, bank papers, in Candace's name. My heart stopped. "What kind of papers?" "An offshore account. Transferred funds. He's hiding something, and he's using her name." My grip tightened. Trevor hadn't just tried to win custody. He was trying to ruin her credit, frame her, possibly worse. The battle wasn't over after all. He had one last knife left to twist. And this time we would have to strike first. Did justice feel sweet in this chapter? Or do you sense danger ahead? What would you do now if you were Lorraine? Comment below, hit like if you believe truth always rises, and subscribe so you don't miss next chapter, the powerful finale where everything comes full circle. By the time we got the documents from Trevor's mother, it was too late to pretend this was over. The paperwork showed thousands of dollars moved to a private account in the Cayman Islands. The name on the account? Candace Whitmore. But she had never opened it, never authorized a dime. We sat around my kitchen table, the documents spread out like a map of betrayal. Candace's hands shook as she looked at the wire transfers. "I don't understand," she whispered. "What was he planning to do with this?" I looked her in the eye. "He was setting you up. If things went south in court, he'd blame you, accuse you of hiding funds. He'd turn you into the villain." We took the papers straight to Thomas Berger, my old friend from town who practiced law for 40 years before retirement. He still had connections, still knew who to call. This is financial fraud, identity theft, and possibly tax evasion, Thomas said. If you file now, we might catch him before he cleans out what's left. That night, Candace filed an official fraud report with the bank and federal authorities. We contacted the IRS. Then we waited. And waited. The days passed slowly. Candace's phone rang constantly, schools, lawyers, confused clients asking about her credit. Trevor was trying to shake her life from the inside out. But he hadn't counted on what we'd already built. A quiet army. Edna spread the word through the church ladies' circle. The pastor brought over food. The same neighbors Trevor thought were too polite to notice? They wrote statements. Testimonies. Even Trevor's old coworker came forward with emails showing he'd been planning this for months. And then came the call. FBI. They had launched an official investigation. And they wanted Candace to come in with everything she had. We packed 2 folders and a flash drive, then drove 2 hours to the nearest field office. Candace walked in alone. I waited in the car with a thermos of tea and a prayer on my lips. 2 hours later, she came out pale, but standing tall. They're moving forward, she said. They froze the account. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. That night, she sat at the edge of the bed in the guest room and said something I'll never forget. Mom, I think I understand now. Why you froze the card that day. Why you stopped being quiet. It wasn't about revenge. It was about showing me what it looks like to stand up. I reached over and held her hand. You had to see it for yourself, I whispered. I couldn't do it for you. The final blow came 2 weeks later. Trevor was arrested at his office, charged with identity theft, wire fraud, and conspiracy to defraud a financial institution. His mugshot was on the news that night. Candace didn't cry. She just sat beside me, the girls asleep upstairs, her hands folded in her lap. He made me believe I was too weak to raise them on my own, she said. But he was wrong. I looked at my daughter, bruised but not broken, scared but finally free, and I saw the girl I raised. The one who used to twirl in rain boots and read books under the covers with a flashlight. You always had it in you, I said. The next morning, Candace made an announcement. I'm going back to school, she said. Finish my degree. Build something that's mine. I smiled. You already started. A few weeks later, she moved into a small home nearby. The girls came by every Friday for pancakes and board games. Sometimes we talked about Trevor. Sometimes we didn't. One day, Candace asked me if I regretted paying for that vacation. I thought about it. No, I said. That trip cost me money, but it bought me back my daughter. Now, every year, we take a different kind of trip. Just me, Candace, Lily, and Harper. No first-class tickets. No luxury suites. Just laughter, matching t-shirts, and quiet mornings with coffee and forgiveness. We've learned that family isn't about blood or last names. It's about who stands with you when the cards freeze, the lies fall, and the truth rises. I may be 78, but I still have a voice. And I'll never let anyone silence it again. The end. Did this ending move you? What lesson do you take from Lorraine's journey? Comment below. We read every word. Like this video if you believe in redemption, healing, and the quiet power of standing up. And don't forget to subscribe. More true-to-life stories are coming, and you won't want to miss a single one.